In this challenge, I want you to create a calculator of sorts. You will have to call upon most of your knowledge of variables to date in order to figure this one out. You will present the user with text boxes to enter two numbers and a select drop-down to choose the operation: add, subtract, multiply, divide, or modulus. You'll error check the form to ensure that they have entered in both numbers and that they have selected an operation. If they fill out the numbers correctly, then perform that operation. The catch here is that all operations must be functions, and you cannot use conditionals to invoke them. The script will consist of two pages: the index page that controls the flow, and the include that contains all of your functions. Here are a couple of hints. Review the chapter on variable variables and figure out how to apply that to create your variable function call for your math functions. Create your form as a function as well, and make sure that the values are filled out correctly when there is an error. There is one operation you'll have to check for specifically. Remember back to your grade 3 math and division. When you have successfully completed the script, test it out. If everything works, then you have completed the task. If it does not, try again. Alternatively, you can come back to this point in this movie and I'll go over my solution to this challenge. Okay, so here's my solution to the Chapter 6 challenge. First, we'll look at the index page. This page controls the operation and flow of the calculator. It's pretty simple. There is the include of the functions here, and then we go to our switch statement, with the argument being the action that's passed through in the URL from our form. The default is to simply show our math form, which I've created as a function. The action check triggers the checking function here, which returns either an error message or the word OK. And we'll examine that in a moment. If the error is not OK, then we return the error message and the math form again. Now, if the error result word is OK, then we call the math function that we want with two entered numbers as the arguments. Note how I am actually calling the function with the posted variable, the operation they've selected. This I will show you how to set up, as that is the core of the actual challenge. So this script is a math functions include. The first function I have here is the math form. Of course, just in case there's an error, we have the values that were originally posted through. The most important part of this function is the names of the operation selections. I have do add, do sub, do mul, do div, and do mod. The reason this is important is because how we invoke the math functions on the index page. The values in the select field will become the name of the function being called. If we remember, let's take a look at do add for instance. If the customer selected do add, we go back to our index page, then this becomes do add. Now the next important part is how we named our math functions, and we'll see that in a second. So the next function that we actually have here is the check math function. First I check to see if the first number had a value, and if not, I return an error, and then the second value, and then an operation. Now if any of these errors were triggered, then it will return that and halt the execution, not checking any further. The final check here is for a division by zero possibility. Because division by zero causes a fatal error in PHP, we want to avoid that by doing that error check here. So if it's division and the second number is 0, then we're just going to return our own message. So if none of these errors are triggered, then we simply return OK. So the following 5 functions are my math functions. Note that the names of the functions correspond with the selection values in our form. As you can see back here. We've got do add, do add, do sub, do sub. So this is the most critical part in getting this to work. The customer selects do add. The index page we invoke do add, which is what we've named our function, do add. Each math function also takes the two arguments for the two numbers and then just prints out the results with a link to try again. All in all, this script is pretty simple, just so long as you understand the concept of how to create a variable function. If you do not yet understand that, fool around with changing the names of the math functions or the selection values to see how that affects with the operation of the script. In the next chapter, we'll cover what may be the scariest concept in PHP, arrays.